Hello, dear starshines. Welcome to the Lunchtime Chats. I'm Christina with Rise of the Multidimensional Human and LightbodyAcademy.com. Welcome, welcome, welcome. For those of you who are new, I am Christina, the acceleration expert, and I do my best to provide a liberated perspective to the topics and issues that way showers and star seeds experience as challenges in their daily lives. So welcome to the chats. I'm going to go ahead and pause. I'm late kind of getting on here, so I'm going to pause and let folks come on, join the conversation. If you want to contribute into the conversation then and topics that we talk about during these chats, I encourage you to check out, if you're on Facebook, I encourage you to check out the Rise of the Multidimensional group. It is a community of wayshowers and starseeds, people who are intuitive, psychic, shamanic healers, stuff like this. And it truly is a unique community. Everybody is of a different, let's say, we have a different perspective than the average human, and therefore our conversations are a lot different than other kinds of conversations you'll find online. So I encourage you to check this out. My dear husband decided that he loves sage. He discovered this recently, and so he acquired us some of these interesting sage sticks. So I'm taking the opportunity just to smudge and cleanse the air. We are in balmy South Dakota at the moment, and it's a very interesting place. I have to tell you, we really love the natural features here. There's some pretty cool nature spirits, and I swear I had a tree come visit me sitting here having a cup of coffee the other morning. So, so it's a really interesting place. There's not a lot of people here, so the collective isn't as noisy. And if the background noise, speaking of noisy, there is a road over here and a lot of trucks, and there's some road noise in the background. Just let me know if that is causing a problem at all. It looks kind of blurry, doesn't it? Good morning, dear Laurel. Yeah, you guys go ahead, say hello. Let me know. Let me know you're there. And meantime, I'm going to wipe off the camera lens. I think I left a big thumbprint on it. Hey, darling. Can All right, testing the sound, guys. Let me know. Hello, dear Sister Polly. Welcome, welcome. Okay, guys, let me know about the sound. Is that an improvement? I forgot that the headpiece actually actually cuts out from time to time. Are we good on sound? We're good on sound. Yay! Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. La la, here we are. All right, so I'm not going to repeat the introduction, guys, but we're just going to dive in because we have some interesting topics to talk about today. Oh, darling, I need one more thing. I need my phone. So the consciousness stream this time, collecting the collecting the questions and the things to talk about, went down a little bit differently. Thank you. So I'm going to have to draw them back up. I didn't put the announcement on this broadcast. Normally I read them right from the broadcast, but in this case I have to go to the live or to the communication stream that we have in the group. So thank you everybody who participated in cultivating the topics this time around. There's some very interesting pieces, and I just could not decide which to go with, which to talk about. So last week we had some groundbreaking discoveries. Would you guys agree? Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So there's a lot of stuff breaking up in the background. There's a lot of quantum fields that are collapsing. There's a lot of support that certain energies had that are no longer so. And I told everybody, everybody who's aware of these different levels, we're very lucky because there's a lot of folks that aren't aware of what's going on. And as a result of that, pretty much shit is going to get, the world's going to get batshit crazy even more intensely over the next 18 months. So I still stand by that because I'm finding it's like I'm discovering people that I thought I knew, that I thought that I had an idea of what they were about, and then it's like turning around and finding out they're a total zombie. So I am getting definitely rocked in a lot of ways. There's people that I thought were really tuned in, that are coming out with some narratives that are really backwards to me. So just, don't let this kind of stuff get you discouraged. Just remember, everybody is they're navigating with the compass that they have. And the compass we have within ourselves is the only thing really we can rely on. So just because someone that you really respected and had a lot of information, or you thought was one way or the other, and they start saying something that's different than how you feel, than how you sense things being, you don't necessarily, don't let something like that make you question yourself. It's always good to reflect and question, of course, but don't let it facilitate you losing confidence in your own ability to discern, your own ability to figure out what's true for you, what's right for you. Okay, is there some some leaders in the field that are coming out with some stuff that's I'm just looking sideways at, like, what? All right, here we are. I'm looking at the I want all the answers to our topic stream here. Uh-oh. All right, I'm going to need some audience help here. Can you guys copy and paste the topics that are in this answer stream into the chats, into the comments here on this feed? I need that because for some reason my phone just is not letting me see all the answers that we have. It says all answers, but there's nothing there. It's completely blank. So if you guys can help me out with that, that would be most awesome. Okay, so while we wait for the topics, I'll go ahead and start in the activation portion, and then I'll start looking at the issues that people sent in. So we'll start with our outer nesting doll. Our outer nesting doll, right? Actually, you know what? We're not going to do that this time. It feels more appropriate to let's stay focused on what's happening in the collective. Right? So if you guys, the activation portion, you guys just simply recall the drawing that I do every time in the mind, and because you've done this activation so many times in this process, you'll be instantly tuned into those levels. Yes, it can be that easy, but instead I want to focus on the model of the collective field and how things filter through it. So for those of you who are new to these talks, this particular model came through a Cherokee record keeper by the name of Barbara Hancock. and she wrote many, many books in her career. And she's semi-retired, though she's taken to writing fiction. And of course, it's not just any kind of fiction. It's a fiction that is meant to activate people's consciousness into the multidimensional field. So she's still doing the work, but she's not doing live trainings anymore like she used to. Or maybe she is, but in a more low-key way. She currently is retired in Canada and outside Vancouver at the moment. So this particular model came through from her own Pleiadian aspect named Satya, she called her. And the whole purpose of this particular model was to show what the polarity field, what the 4D collective field does to higher dimensional frequencies. Now, those of you who channel and do stuff like this or work with intuitive modalities, you know that hopefully you know that all intuitive data, all information coming from these other realms is filtered by a lens that is within you. And this lens is cultivated and shaped by your belief systems, by your conclusions about reality, and not even just those that are your own, but those that you have inherited from your ancestors. So it also, this filtering system also is based on a lot of subconscious things that we've inherited. So if you are in a lineage of medicine people, your particular lens is going to be a lot clearer than perhaps those that have been, descendants of a line of maybe Puritan type Christians or something like this. Okay, so there's many things that come into the cultivation of this field. And if you're a Christian energy medicine worker, you work with Jesus, you work with angels, you work with things that you can allow into your field and work with because of your belief system. And therefore, all these different flavors of higher dimensional energies are going to come forward in that kind of flavor because that's where you're willing to show up. Okay, and there's others. I mean, you have people who are trained in different shamanic modalities. Okay. Some people are, not all shamanic modalities are created equal. There's a lot of shamanism out there that really believes and works with the model of good and evil, right and wrong, left and right, male and female, okay? And so when I hear people talk in those terms, I'm instantly flagged to there's a limitation now. I understand that there's a limitation to their perceptions because of that polarity field, because of this field is so heavily influenced. So this is partially why I sound really negative about, critical maybe is the way to say it, of channeled material, which I am. I'm very critical of channeled material. Not that just because it's been filtered, it can't be activating. It absolutely can be activating. So it's again, we're back to your compass, your discernment, the way you feel what is resonant for you is so important to any kind of material like that. And also just recognize that, thank you, Lori. She's texting me. I think that she's texting me the questions. Where was I at? Oh, okay, yeah. So things, they can still be activating even though the energy is being filtered by belief systems and stuff like that. It all depends on where you're at. And if there is something that is maybe you have a resonance towards as truth, or maybe a resonance towards as not truth, if it is important, if it is something that's absolutely essential for your growth in the expansion of your consciousness, your inner levels, your inner knowing, your inner standing is going to not let you forget what that important piece was. Like there's so many times I can't even tell you where I was in a teaching circle where I was in the circle of docents, and there was information that was way over my head. It was like I did not have the ability to really let any of that land. But and in fact, a lot of it I was triggered by, and I was making it wrong, and I didn't want to believe it, stuff like that. But I knew I was there for a reason, because the whole reason why I was sitting in that circle was because my intuitive sense was I have to be there for that, and maybe I wasn't at that level to really understand and let it land and work, be able to work with that energy very easily. The things that were important from that circle, from that talk, my inner self, or maybe aka higher self, would not let certain phrases leave my memory. At key moments, I'll wake up and that phrase will be in my memory, or I'll be taking a walk somewhere and those words will start coming back to me. So don't worry about if you're, to catch it all. People want to write things down all the time, which is totally not good as far as assimilating information. We believe it is because we write it down, we can look back and reflect, but you're writing it down and looking back and reflecting with the part of yourself that is a mental body. When you're working with your intuitive nature, your infinite nature, your multidimensional nature, it's far beyond the mental field. See, this is the mental field. Your multidimensional nature is all this up here and all this down here, okay? So most of it is not logical. Most of it cannot be processed by the mental field. You have to first digest it and process it with the other levels of your being. Then the mental body can understand it, only after it's been processed and digested. Okay, so it doesn't matter how fast you write or anything like this. The act of writing while you're getting a download from a teacher actually hinders the download a lot. It hinders your presence in the moment with the teacher, but it also filters things in such a way where it's not as rich. It still can be activating. Like I said, it all depends on where you're at. When I am with a teacher where I'm super, super excited to be a part of, I know that I'm there and it's important, I don't bring anything to write down. I don't, you know what I mean? If I need something written down, someone will give me a piece of paper and a pen. I mean, I trust the universe to. All right, very interesting. Okay, the mute just popped back on. I don't know if that was if that was just a recent thing or if it's been like that for a while. Suddenly, no sound, lost audio. Okay, we're back. We're back. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad I looked over and noticed that. Okay, so let me go back to a couple of the comments here. Let me go back to the couple of comments. All right, dear Sister Hodai, hello, darling, welcome, welcome. She says, yes, thank you for that. I'm kind of looking sideways at some now too. All right, so this is in reference to the comment I made about, people who I've really respected and thought highly of in their consciousness and the process and stuff like this, coming out with some crazy shit that I'm kind of like looking sideways at. Okay, like that. All right. And then she says, I've had to cut myself off from some while they work through their stuff. I feel such a lack of purposeful and useful info right now. Yes. Okay. Is the sound back? Yes. Okay, it's back. All right. Thank you for that. Yeah. Right. And I have some folks. Well, in the academy, we are extremely. I mean, we all feel extremely blessed, but we're especially blessed because we have each other. We have our community to work things out. You know what I mean? We're not by ourselves on our path in any sense of the word. It's like, we go through our own stuff, of course, but the support is there, and the level of conversation and connection is there, where we can flesh out and work through a lot of things. So it's like we might be some of us might be confused for a little while, but it doesn't last very long, not more than a few days, and I feel like this is yet another reason why working in groups is so important for us right now, because of that collective input. When you have many different perspectives of the same thing, you get a more rounded perspective. You're not in that narrow bandwidth anymore. You can now, and we're getting other perspective from each other, and we have a connection and trust for each other. So, and we know each other really well in the way the data sets come through each of us. So there's a lot of respect there too. So having that kind of council of perceptions is I think priceless at this time for all of us, really. All right, let's get back to thanks for the explanation on note taking. I usually do this. I will work on being present while listening and not taking notes. Yeah. Thank you, darling. Yeah, that's very sweet. All right. Okay, we're back. Okay, cool. Thank you for that, guys. All right, so let's see if my phone brought up those questions. It did not. All right. If you guys know what I'm talking about, if you guys saw the conversation thread in the group, if you're on Facebook right now, it would really be helpful if you guys help me out with this, getting to the questions. I know one of them, darling, was, I think, Carol, you're talking about your attention is really being taken into the 3D world, and you feel like you're leaving your spiritual process, your spiritual life behind, or maybe not giving enough bandwidth, stuff like this. I really want to, this is it seems like a beginner question, but it's not, because this is the issue that humanity is facing. Bringing our spiritual truth and our 3D world together, integrating those pieces so they are together. Now, we have been taught and it's been exemplified that it's split. There's the real world, then there's the spiritual world. This is what we're taught. And this is why, a lot of masters and stuff would actually have to give up life in the 3D world in society and go live way up high in a mountain in a closed community, or even in a hermitage in some form, in order for them to open up and integrate their spiritual awareness, their spiritual self, and their 3D reality. But this is ending. Actually, I should say this has ended. It's not like that anymore. And we, the homemakers, are the ones, we everyday folk are the ones. All right, dear sister Lori, the link you're sending me is not working. If you can just copy and paste that stuff into the comments or a text, that would be great, if you can find it. We are the ones to do the work, to merge these realities together so they are one. There are 2 times in life where the mystical and the mundane come together. 2 times. And that is when there's a birth, and that is when there's a death. Okay? And you can imagine all the people that actually don't get the privilege and honor of being present for a loved one's death. Okay? So that already robbed one of those major life transitions, so that they don't have that. And then we have birth. And of course, moms, they go through a process, but the way the medical field is with the process, they kind of take a lot of the spiritual truth out of things. There's some things you can't take out, but there's other things that can be taken out and are very often. Okay. All right. So we're in charge of blending these together. So that means, for one, we get that belief system that they have to be separate. We work that, we unravel it. Okay. How do you unravel something like that that's deeply anchored in, because its conclusion is being a truth? Okay. Number one, just recognizing that it's not something that's written in stone, and recognizing that part of your purpose is to bring these worlds together. You've already made that first step into stepping out of the trap. A lot of these things have control over us subconsciously, unconsciously, or whatever, because we don't know they're there. Once we know it's there, then we're that much more empowered to choose differently in the moment, or recognize different attitudes and behaviors we have from moment to moment that contribute in keeping it separate. You see what I mean? So just being aware of that is really a big piece for us all. Now, after that, being aware of how to do your shadow work, how to deal with fear, how to deal with when you're motivated to make a decision out of lack and limitation and suffering, versus making a decision because it's your passion, it's something you love, and something you really want deep inside your being, right? So what happens is that you actually start navigating through life with a different compass that no longer becomes the dominant force in your decision making, and how you navigate the world. Okay, so dealing with that's a thing. And there's a lot of Western pieces in here where people truly are trying to marry the spiritual and the mundane world together. And I first experienced this with yoga teachers, and I'm not talking about the kind of huff puff exercise yoga that most Westerners call yoga. Okay. I was a teenager, and I had I was so taken care of in my upbringing. I'm telling you, I mean, not that I didn't suffer or have trauma or abuse or anything like that, but the right teachers always came on my path at the right time. And when I was 18, 19 years old, A teacher, I told my then partner, boyfriend at the time, that I wanted to do yoga, and he was like, "There's a yoga studio right down the street from my house. You should go." La 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 la. So, long story short, he actually made sure I went. And like, he wasn't interested in it at all, but he was like, he knew I had to go and do that, right? So he got me there, and it just so happened to be a yoga teacher that just left an ashram that she's been living in for the past 20 years. So she was the coming from that flavor of, really deep, almost enunciate type path. So that was my first exposure. And in that community, there was something they talked about, which is like, how do you take your yoga practice off the mat? How do you take that focused practice off of just during that hour, 2 hours that you're doing your yoga practice, and take it into the everyday world? And there was a lot of talk and teachings around that. Now, of course, there are things that were messed up about it, which, like I said, this is this is something I talk about all the time, the lies woven in with the truth, right? We're reeled in by the resonance of the truth, and then the other little lies are tucked in there that we don't recognize. So, or maybe we do and we think it's truth, whatever. So there's all that kind of stuff mixed in with it. But this thing about marrying those two together, the idea that one cannot become fully realized unless they are of a monastic lifestyle, that model is done. That model is completely shattered. There are many humans that are becoming self-realized that are homemakers, right? That are businessmen, that are people that live within our 3D world and are in our 3D system. Now there's this is a really big deal. And this is also one of the reasons why I love Jasmine Heen so much in the work that she's done, because she's pretty much welcomed the West. She pretty much welcomed the West and introduced the West into the ideas of breatharianism, the ideas that you can live off of pure life force energy. This is a practice that is really well known in Asia, and they call them sidhus or gurus or Taoist masters, immortal stuff like this. But the belief is that you had to be, like I said, in a place where nature is thriving, away from humans, in order to cultivate that kind of practice. And she proved that just is not true. And she's been teaching this for decades, and she helps facilitate others in making that transition. And she's done so for decades. So that's one of the many reasons why I love her work, because she has proven that you do not have to be living in hermitage, being a spiritual master, and practice these things that we normally associate only with spiritual mastery, only with realized humans. Okay. So this is exciting times, guys, really exciting times, but we have to really get comfortable with our own compass. We have to get comfortable making a discernment, because I can't tell you how many times where what I was perceiving and seeing things, trust me, it was very unpopular. And I usually only told people closest to me my thoughts and feelings around things, and it wasn't until I started cultivating this group and these kinds of connections and talking about things in the way that I see them, did I recognize that I am not alone in this at all. There's a lot of other people who are resonating with me and the truths that I see. So thank you for that, all of you. All right. Okay. Thank you, guys. It seems like you guys, there's some pastings here. Let me get to. All right. Thank you, dear Lori, for pasting those up for me. So what else do I need to say about that? To bring in the 3D and the mundane, or I'm sorry, bringing the spiritual and the mundane and integrating them to the same reality. Okay, so many of us in the academy are seeing the fruits of this, and what's happening is that we are having exospecies contact. Okay, many of us are having exospecies contact. What does that mean? That does not mean just ETs, guys. That means nature spirits. That means Sasquatch. That means, interdimensional beings that live in the earth, that live, through, let's say, live on etheric planes that are parallel to ours. And this is a fruit of our labors, because we are of that frequency, that vibration, that level of perception where we can have both those realms in our reality at the same time. And as we do that, those realities are coming together. And the beautiful thing about that is that we can now help others be open to these realms of being, these ways of being. And really, nature misses us. Nature misses us humans and being a part of the magic of what it is. Okay, there's so many humans that I know who are very mundane, and maybe a lot of them are Vietnam vets who have extreme PTSD that just they leave regular society and they just want to be in nature. That's all they want to do. Okay, there's a reason for that. It's not just because of the PTSD or the trauma dramas. There's other things going on there besides that. They're getting nurtured. They're getting met in certain ways that doesn't happen when they're around other humans. Okay, so there's more to nature and trees than just wood and leaves and roots. There's so much more going on there. And the more that we humans open up and recognize and interact, the more that these worlds can come together. So we can all experience the beauty and magic of nature. And we can all experience what it is to be completely inundated and surrounded by the love of the mother. And when we're in that state, we are absolutely, without a doubt, connected to something bigger than just our ego drive ourselves and our bodies. There's something much bigger going on, and it touches us on a very deep level, and it motivates us. It heals us, inspires us. You see? All right, let me get to some of the other things that are here. All right, let's see. Scrolling. Okay, so this one says, lately I've been immersed in my personal and family life. Sorry. Yep, I already did that one. So much happening. Oh, that was me. Oh, yeah, influencing the weather. Speaking of magic. Right. So this was from a dear starshine. Oh, I love her so much. She's in far eastern Washington. And at the time that she sent this, Washington was going through a massive heat wave, triple digits, and there's no rain in sight. And it's just, one big fire hazard, right? And, all of us in the West anyway, have had a lot of experience with the massive firestorms, disasters going on, catastrophes, really. It's one of the reasons why actually I left Colorado, because I just didn't want to, be close to that. There was a time when I was doing some work in a sanctuary, actually in a teepee. It was the first time I really felt okay to open up to others that weren't aware to the 9-dimensional teachings and dispense them. And when a forest fire happened right around on the other side of the ridge from where we were. And so I do the activation, we're all activated, and then we notice this plane keeps flying over, and we realize it was with the fire department. And we had to pack up all our gear and get out of that canyon, because the only road out of the canyon was going to have to go through the fire, so that was a very interesting moment there in my life. Anyway, I'm getting to the point. So the point is that the energies that we hold, our emotional state, are how we are connected or not connected, our states of consciousness, all this stuff is connected to these outward events. So that fire happened because I was bringing forward some really big bombs of energy. Not intentionally. I wasn't I'm going to bring bombs of energy. No. I was working through my resistance of it's going to be okay. It is okay for me to step forward and start bringing these teachings to others, right? And it was, me meeting myself, and that fire was a part of that transformation process, was a part of that transmutation process. Something really significant transmuted through the mountainous areas that we were in by us doing those teachings in the TP that day, right? So everything is connected. If you believe you can't affect something, that will absolutely, because of this field, that will absolutely affect you. But the truth is, we all can affect the weather. We all can impact. We all have impact here. It's just we believe we're insignificant, therefore that's what we experience. But if you can believe you can, manipulate the weather, then you will be able to. Okay, so simple exercise for you guys to try. All right, and this is something called cloud busting, And if you go through the videos that I have on YouTube, the ones from several years ago, I actually go much deeper into cloud busting, and then I added in a part 2 video of how to apply that same technique to busting chemtrails. Okay, so this is something that I put into practice for many, many, many years. I actually learned about this from a shiatsu master of all of all people, right? If you guys aren't familiar with shiatsu, it's a acupressure type of acupressure massage, and it is something that is, I think it's Chinese. It's Chinese. Oh no, Chinese, Japanese. Sorry, shiatsu is Japanese. Anyway, so it was a shiatsu master that was talking about her master teaching her about cloud busting. And every time she tried to do it, nothing would ever happen. And anytime her teacher did it, and with littlest effort, she would just, take her hand and choo, 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 chi into the clouds, and they would instantly dissipate. And she couldn't figure out what the problem was. And the problem was, through deep reflection and inner work, she realized she just didn't believe that she could influence the clouds like that. And this is a very famous teacher. She's now passed, that was in Hawaii. She worked out of actually, I can't remember the island she worked out of. Anyway, so once she got over the belief system that she didn't realize she had going on, when she was able to go and bust clouds. So she tells that story, and that day after the workshop, after the intensive was over, I was like, I'm going to cloud bust. And I did. It was like, boom, 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 and I was, the clouds were splitting and dispersing really easily. There's a little bit of a delay when you do it, but when you can focus life force, just like when you're practicing Qigong or some kind of pranic process, it's just a matter of focusing life force, focusing Qi or prana, whatever you want to call it, and aiming it towards the cloud. And in the movement, because that Qi acts like wind. Another word for Qi, this is in Chinese, the primary element that represents Qi is not energy, it's wind. See, we don't have those kinds of mystery teachings in our modalities here in the U.S. But when you go to the ancient form in the East, that all these little pieces start to make sense. So this was a Qigong master taught me about that, but it's actually wind. It's not ether. Anyway, so you focus the Qi right into the cloud, and you keep that focus, and you keep the movement of the Qi. It moves with your intention into the cloud. The cloud will start to dissipate. And you can. This is just cloud busting. I'm not actually talking about weather yet. But just, practice that. And then you'll start to recognize how you do have an impact. You do have the ability to impact the clouds in the sky. So that's to get past the belief systems of why you cannot affect the weather. Now, I'm going to weave this into, there's a lot of weather manipulation, and a lot of people are falling victim to feeling like they're a victim of the powers that be manipulating the weather. We have chemtrails, we have all the aluminum and black goo and all the stuff that goes into the chemtrails. We have the HAARP, the HARP machines, and that's all been disclosed by our government, that they do have these machines, and they do use microwaves up in the ionosphere to see what they can do, right? But there's another agenda. Those of you who are aware, there's another use for that, and that is weather manipulation. And there's times when the HARP clouds are so strong and thick, and there's other times when there's nothing. So you can tell HARP clouds because they look like ripples. They look like, ripples over in the sky, and there, you'll notice them. I grew up in the 70s, and and we didn't have clouds like that. Clouds like that didn't start appearing until the 80s, late 80s, So I remember when the skies looked very differently than they do now. So I have a personal reference for myself. For the younger generation, perhaps they don't. But anyway, the weather manipulation technology that they use can be counteracted. We can counteract that. The natural force is, the natural forces can snap back when they are not constantly. So in order for, sorry, let me backtrack. Okay. In order for them to take and keep control of the weather full time, they have to always be on it. It always has to be on. Okay. So it's like, it's not just a matter of tweaking a little cloud here and now all the weather's going to change. It's like, no, they have to work with high pressures and low pressures. They still have to work with the nature of weather. They just are in constant analyzation to make sure that they're tweaking here and tweaking there where they need to. But they has to, in order for them to maintain a false weather pattern, they have to be on it 24/7 for the entire time that that pattern is unfolding. Okay, so it takes a lot of effort and energy on their part. Right? So a lot of electricity, a lot of engagement. For humans, it's not like that. Instead, you actually bring balance and harmony within yourself in connection to the weather around you, and that is going to snap the weather back to its natural pattern. Imagine if we just had a handful of people that did this on a regular basis. Their technology would be rendered inert in a matter of days. Okay, I really feel this. So an example I have is that I have a very recent example. I won't go into all the details, but pretty much there's a process that I teach in the academy that I learned from my work with the medicine people of the Wichita and several others, where they call it, I call it a sand painting, but it can be on earth. It doesn't have to be sand. The Wichita people are in a desert, so of course it's called sand painting, right? And what you do is that you capture an intention, you capture a spirit or an intention in a frame, and you make the frame on the ground. And within that frame, you start creating a work of art. You start creating an expression of a particular kind of energy. And I used a sand painting like that to bring harmony and ease a lot of the conflict energy that was going on in a particular event that I was on my way to. And I usually don't necessarily, I don't know, I kind of call it meddling, but I normally don't meddle. I don't normally need to. But when you have a lot of people who are using sorcery and other things, and government stuff, using energy to influence and stuff like that, sometimes you need to. So I did. And it was like instantly the weather all around us turned into a thunderstorm. Maybe an hour, not even an hour went by. It was just a few minutes went by, and there was no thunderstorm or rain in the weather at the time. So that by me focusing the energy like that and bringing in the energy of harmony, that intent, and by plugging in and working all those angles, that completely shifted the weather pattern around me, and it brought rain. Okay, so it's a holistic kind of thing for me to work with weather. You just don't call in rain because you need rain. You call in rain to serve a higher purpose, to because there's something else to unfold. And the environment is consciousness. Wind has awareness. Wind has memory. Okay, trees are aware. Nature spirits, they're aware. So you first tune yourself in to be in harmony with these beings, and then you ask them. You say, "Hey, dearly beloved, dear brother, I really would like to do A, B, and C for my fellow man, for my fellow human beings, and it's not safe to do so because of the fire hazard or whatever. Because there's no rain, and I'm worried about their well-being. Can you please bring us some rain?" It's a conversation like that. It's with deep humility, deep sincerity, lots of gratitude, and that nature spirit will respond, or nature spirits plural will respond instantly. Okay, so just know that we are, because we're merging the mundane and the spiritual together like that, we are the custodians. We are the ones who can take this reality back from all the artificial influences. We are the ones, because we're the ones that are here to do this, to merge these things. Okay, we are the ones that are here to do that en masse, not just a skilled medicine man or woman here or there. All of us are opening up to a global shamanic paradigm. All of us are waking up to these abilities, to our multidimensional self. Okay, all of us are. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to keep going. Dum, 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 dum. All right, here we are. Okay. All right, so that was the weather. All right, then this is another one. This is a PM that I received, and this was, oh wow, time is flying by. Holy crap. All right, so a PM from another starshine in this group. I quote, I wonder if you feel guided to talk about living off grid and what is needed to do this and the pros and cons with it. And if you feel guided to talk about blocked intuition when things are happening. And okay, hold on. So let me start with the first question. Living off grid is a great idea if you feel like you're drawn to that, but it does require being in isolation. Okay. I mean, maybe you'll have some neighbors, maybe you'll have a small community of people in town, which could be so. There's several examples where I see certain point people, that those that live completely off grid and away from humanity and nature, they have some point people in the town around them that they have contact with and work with. But you need to decide if that is something that you can cope with in a healthy way. Most humans don't deal well with isolation. Most humans don't. Okay, so living off grid is one thing. But there's lots of ways with technology these days to do something close to off grid. Well, for example, our rig here, it's like we don't have to be plugged into shore power, though it's convenient when we are. So we can run completely off solar in this rig. We can fill up only on spring water. We can pretty much operate. We have propane. Okay, so that's not off grid. But pretty much this whole container here can function off grid for a period of time when need be. And we definitely love to boondock because we like to be isolated in nature in periods of time. But because of my work and because of, we have kids, we don't want to be really, we don't want to be off the grid to our kids. There's other priorities in our lives that don't necessarily make living completely off grid a viable option. Okay. I'm usually pretty good with isolation, but I think it does get to me after a while too. So I don't think I'm necessarily a prime candidate to be isolated. The other model of living off grid that I see people have success with is finding communities, being in like maybe a commune or being in spiritual community, stuff like that. But even that does have its drawbacks. Like if it's a spiritual community, that means there's a leader, and chances are it's a guru type leader. So you need to be with the program, or you're not going to be a successful citizen within that community. Dama and Her, that's another example of an off-grid community. They live deep in the mountains of Italy. I get a lot of mixed reviews about Dama and Her. They're doing super interesting interdimensional, multidimensional technology work, like really, really fascinating stuff. But then I also get word from people that, that had to leave that community because they felt like they sucked the life force. Like you had to be spending a lot of life force energy on the different projects. And if you don't, then you kind of get, you're not given a nurturing space to heal and recover. And it turns into something that sucks the life out of you. So I've actually talked to a retired couple that left that community because they felt like they were going to die if they stayed. Okay. So there's that kind of feedback that I've heard from this community. The other thing that people, actually, I think they're very public about it, or maybe not very public about it, but public about it in certain circles, is that the leader of that particular community has time travel technology, and he goes back and brings technology forward from Atlantis. Now, those of you who have memories of Atlantis, you might recognize that there's that could be problematic, because didn't Atlantis destroy themselves with their technology? Right? So if the Atlanteans did it, I'm pretty sure humanity has similar weaknesses in their nature and their character, perhaps. So there's some questions raised about that. I think that we need to really focus, for humans, us homemakers that are here to merge those realities. We really need to figure out our doorways in to live the life that we want and commit to that. That means not chasing the rat race. I mean, really cultivating that compass and living your truth. And living your truth, it's not about who's with you, who supports you, and who doesn't support you. You know what I mean? It's about your commitment to self. That's what that's about. Your commitment to self. And if there are communities that don't support you, then walk away. Don't lament because, oh, these people over here, they just won't support me. They're all messed up and they're this and that. Yeah, they probably are all those things. Move on. Don't waste any more energy. Just keep moving. And that when you can get to that place of truly accepting each way with their flaws and all in awe, then you won't be compelled to spend your energy on the adversity of things. You'll be able to just put it down right away when you recognize that it's not right for you, and regroup your energy and redirect. Regrouping and redirecting is like the story of my life because there's so many things that I'll get started, and especially years ago, I'll get started on something and I realize it's not what I thought it was, or I thought I wanted it, but it's not actually what I wanted. You know what I mean? So rather than, trying to force a square peg in a round hole, I would just abandon the whole thing and regroup. And 99.9% of the time, the experiences that from cultivating those things turn out to be very valuable after I've regrouped and redirected my energy to what really was what I wanted, what I thought I wanted, right? So there's no waste of time. Everything in my life, and I'm sure in your guys' life too, you guys realize it wasn't for naught. There was valuable things learned, there were skills acquired, there were connections made that play a part later in life, later in your walk towards purpose. All right. There's a whole bunch in this one particular PM, so I'm going to go on to the next piece to that. Next piece to that is, blocked intuition when things have happened and don't feel the same ability to intuitively feel guidance as before, has been attacks and all sorts of things being done energetically. I don't know ways why blocking it. Okay. So we'll just sum this up. Psychic attack and feeling like your intuitive senses are blocked. Big deal. Really big deal. And actually, I just was in a conversation in the pineal gland group where someone's saying, what do you do about curses? And how do you protect yourself from them, So here's the deal. All of humanity is living out a curse on one level or the other. Okay? So, for example, Yahweh, the Christian God, cursed humanity when he kicked them out of the Garden of Eden. Do you guys know what that curse was? When he kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, he said, you are now cursed to reap only thistles and thorns from the earth. Okay? That curse is playing out today among humanity. This is why the attitude that the earth is an enemy. The earth is something you need protected from. You see what I mean? Earth doesn't take care of you. God takes care of you, right? That is a mind poison that is quite literally choking the life out of humanity right now. I mean, all this COVID nonsense, this is all tied into it, right? Someone who would actually fund gain-of-function research on viruses to make them more deadly, to make them more contagious. You see what I'm saying? I mean, we are not immune to the awareness that powers that be, government or what is, or corporations are nurturing biowarfare. We know this is so. This has been so since before World War II, right? And I mean, the whole zombie obsession, the zombie apocalypse, that is huge in the collective awareness. Yeah, all those zombie movies, all the zombie video games, that exists because on some level we're aware that there are people that are doing these things that are leading in that direction. Okay, so some of those stories, actually I think all those stories, those zombies are zombies because there was a virus released on the planet and it had a disastrous effect. And it made zombies, and these zombies were extremely contagious. If they just cut you in some way, you are now infected with the same illness that created them. So there's also some parallel here is that a lot of light workers are making to the jabs, right? People who are getting the jabs are cut off from themselves. So this is happening over and over again because it's something that really exists within our subconscious. Okay. So this curse that all of humanity is living out it seems insignificant, but it is huge. It is huge influence to our lives. So how do you work that out? So there's a lot of things. Number one, truth has to be the number one priority in your world, truth. And I don't mean others being truthful with you. I'm talking about you being truthful with yourself and you catching yourself when you lie to yourself, all right? That's a little bit hard. That's hard to do at first, but if you are patient and you are observant, you will start to see those lies that you tell yourself and accept as truth. Okay. So that's a big piece. The other thing is block perceptions. So here's the thing about dark arts. Dark arts, it's learning through adversity, it's learning through darkness. So if you approach dark arts in the right way, it actually makes you stronger. It makes you more potent, more powerful. If you are approaching dark arts and you can't get out of the victim program or the perpetrator program or the savior program, then it's gonna take its toll, and you're going to lose the end of the day. So a great example. All right, so here's an example. I can't remember where I heard the story, but it was an athlete there. I think he might have been in kickboxing. There might be a Thai story. There was an athlete who he broke his leg, and he wanted to still condition and train for some world champion, some big competition. So what his trainer did was had him do, continue training with his injury, right? Continue training with his injury. But then once his injury was getting better and he had use of that limb again, he would bound up the other limb. So he would have to train extra hard on that limb that was recovering. And what that was that the other parts of him that weren't working were resting and healing and stuff like that. And he was using that to his advantage to make the parts that were working even stronger. And then once that other part started to be able to work again, they worked that one even harder, right? So that can become stronger. And the athlete, his feedback is that he, after full recovery and all that he was stronger and more agile and powerful than he ever has been in his life. And he attributed that to breaking his leg. Okay, and how his trainer helped him deal with that. So if someone blocks your intuitive sense, like say your psychic eye is really open and bam, you get slammed and it's shut down, no worries, because your psychic eye is only this much of the perceptions of all of who you are. Most powerful, intuitive, perceptive sense that the human body has is not the third eye. I know that goes against everything that you've been taught, but it's the truth. The truth is the most powerful psychic intuitive sense that humanity knows, who's secretly expressed by the energy of jaguar, is your sacral chakra. Your ability to feel. Not psychic project, not pick up, psychic signals through the third eye. Your most powerful intuitive sense is your ability to feel. Hands down, exponentially, that's the most powerful sense a human has. So you can see why the manipulators of consciousness focus a lot of their stuff on numbing people out, numbing them out. Distraction, drugs, pharmaceuticals, TV, all that stuff numbs us out. Drama, right? But the most powerful human sense is our jaguar sense, which is feeling. So feeling doesn't lie. It cannot be manipulated other than being numbed out, right? Feeling encourages a big open heart. In fact, the more you feel, the more open your heart gets. I don't know how many of you have known someone whose psychic eye, the more their psychic eye opens, the more loving they become. That's not what I've witnessed. Now, if your heart is open and it's big, and then your psychic eye opens, then you're cooking with more centeredness. But psychic perceptions, visual perceptions especially, are super manipulated. And they're manipulated from the inside out. This is where the hypothalamus comes in. So your intuitive, your third eye perceptions and connections to sense of connection to source is the pineal pituitary and the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is just underneath the pineal and pituitary. So the pineal and pituitary are very close together, and then there's the sphenoid bone, and then there's the hypothalamus right underneath it. Those three glands work together. It is the hypothalamus that is in charge of creating the inner movie. And if your hypothalamus is shut down or contaminated, which chemicals can contaminate our glands, right? We know that. Especially, all the different talk about the ways the pineal glands contaminated. Well, that same reality is so with hypothalamus and pituitary. So if your hypothalamus gland is compromised in any way, that inner movie is going to be distorted. Okay. This is where a lot of ET technology comes in with manipulating memories and all that kind of stuff. Because it's like you'll have a memory that's false. The only way to get past that false memory, in how I work and how I understand things to be, is to feel a feeling that perhaps notice a feeling that you have that perhaps is not congruent with the movie that you have in your head. Now, most people go with seeing is believing. So if that's a movie in your head, that's exactly how it is. But the true lie detector here is how you feel, what you sense. Okay, so if the feeling is warm and fuzzy in the belly, nice and opening in the heart, that's a good feeling. That's a true feeling. But if it's not, and it's actually like maybe poking in the solar plexus, and maybe some hesitancy somewhere in your body, but you're seeing this beautiful movie psychically, your feeling is going to be able to guide you out of the lie. So we have to cultivate our sensitivity. And I know a lot of people want the exact opposite of that, especially empaths, but that empathic ability is a gift. We just have to change that relationship to the gift. When you're around a bunch of numbed out people, a bunch of hostile and traumatized people, as an empath, that's like hell, right? So it's about, we got to change that relationship so we can understand how to use it to our advantage, how to use it to play into our strengths, how to use it to help us navigate this reality. Okay. So, and that's all about what I do. Everything that I do is around that, changing our relationship to things so we can be empowered in our reality, so we can be sovereign, multidimensional beings in our fullness, right? In our sovereignty. So that means peeling away blind spots, peeling away the lies, peeling away the things in this lens and beyond that have a poor relationship to these other levels of our being. Okay. All right. Oh boy, I think I went a little bit over on that one. I'm just going to go through the rest of the comments and then I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. All right. So we have this morning, dear Joanne says, this morning in an open lab, the three of us shared information that triggered new awareness of important interconnectedness that is and will be integral in our understanding of future movement and the new earth paradigm. Yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Community is essential in this stage of the game because we need to have multiple perceptions, even beyond the individual, to work with, so we can digest and integrate all that's going on. Okay. Being lonely and isolated, this is not the time. Sure, isolate yourself if you need to heal or you need that stillness, that peace, that silence, which is fine. Get the nurturing that offers you, which is essential actually to our healing, and then come back into a community, come back into the world, so you can engage and show up in the ways that you need to show up, so you can participate, do your part in merging these realities together into one. All right, I copied and pasted the comments. Thank you, Lori, about the breath area. Okay, yeah, Lori answered that question for dear sister Starshine. My husband and I work on weather energy all the time. This is Carol. Many of us working together to redirect hurricanes away from the islands, which has worked for the past 3 or 4 years. Okay, this is dear sister Joanne saying that. She lives in Hawaii. And then we have dear sister Hodai says, I see elementals attacking the chemtrails. I focus my intent on them to assist, and gratitude. Yeah, there are so many ways, guys, and I'm not surprised that many of you just spontaneously go into your own way. There's so many ways to do this. And you don't have to be any, you don't have to have any amazing abilities, even though I know you guys all do. You can be a normal everyday Joe and have an impact on the weather. Okay, it doesn't require extraordinary skill. It just requires a purity in your intent, a purity in your being, a humbleness in your presence. That's all it requires. You call spirit answers. It's, we're kind of taught that it's the opposite of that. You have to be worthy, but that all is a bullshit program. I'm telling you, we are infinite being in a biosuit. We come with the ability to do all these things. There's no beings that grant it to us. That's another big lie. We have to be granted gifts from another being. A being, God needs to deem us worthy. That's all bullshit program. I know a lot of fucking toxic spiritual leaders, guys. I see them and it's just like, how are they doing what they're doing? It blows my mind, and people believe because they have this power, they've been ordained by God, and it's all bullshit. Now I'm getting belligerent here, but it's true. This is something that frustrates me. This is why the lies continue, because we have beings that perpetuate these lies. They take people who are vulnerable and then they keep, they feed them things to give themselves more power, thinking, and this person is just in pure innocence, not knowing better, just doing the best they can. They just want love. They just want connection, and they're going to do it with all of their gusto that they have inside. And they don't even realize how they're giving their power up and they're exalting these beings, another being, and they're not actually stepping into their own sovereignty, into who they are. So that is a frustrating place that I visit. But anyway, I'm going to get off of my soapbox now and wrap up. All right. So, darling starshines, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. And I have to say, if these kinds of things that I'm talking about really are resonating for you and you want to step forward, you want to level up into your beingness, into your abilities and your sovereignty, and you want that supportive community, I encourage you guys to check out the Lightbody Academy, the Dreamtime Healing Project, because that is the kind of community we have. And it's not, I get turned off by communities because there's a lot of inauthenticness going on. There's a lot of veneration, and I get turned off by stuff like that. But I have to say, our community is the most authentic, connective place for intuitives and empaths to come together and share. We hold space for dream share. We hold space for pretty much everything and anything that someone wants to bring into the table. And it's such a nurturing place. It's such a nurturing space. So if you're craving that, if you're craving the community and you're craving into diving deeper into your dreams or into your inner knowing and stepping into your gifts, I encourage you to check that out. It's really such a graceful way to move forward. We're challenged, but at the same time, we're helped. We have a lot of support at the same time. So it's like our ego driver might cause a lot of confusion and, influence all this, where we get really turned around at times. And but at the same time, these other levels of who we are infinitely supporting us. So it's just a matter of taking that leap and trusting that whisper inside and saying, yes, I'm going to try it. Yes, I'm going to see what might be there for me. That's all it takes. All right, guys. Thank you again. I shall see you guys next week. We'll be posting the conversation thread in the Rise of the Multidimensional Human Facebook group. If you loathe Facebook, which I know many of you do, this broadcast happens every week on our YouTube channel, Lightbody Academy. So thank you again, and I will catch you guys next time. Mwah, mwah. Bye-bye.